Let's go to John. John is in Tennessee and is an RFK fan. John, did you vote for RFK?
I did this time, yeah. And I say that as someone who voted for Obama twice, and then left a ticket blank in 16, the top of the ticket, and then a Biden voter, not supporter, in 2020, and then a true RFK supporter this time around. I am not the typical sort of uh, unwashed, uneducated MAGA voter that it seems to come from the left almost as like a terminal
Although,
illness, among my
although I
liberal
although
friends.
although I noticed you didn't shave today, so you may be
It's
washed, but
true.
you're
That's
unshaved.
true.
You're unshaven.
I grew up in Massachusetts. I've lived in Tennessee for 10 years now. So well educated. I went to Harvard Med School. I was in this crowd, and I'm a physician. I have two young kids. And when I think about RFK, I think about the status quo in the sense of, my first week of high school was 9/11. My first week of college was Katrina, the Iraq War, 2008. I graduated in '09. I've kind of gotten used to my government not being sort of truthful with me, and as someone who otherwise is hopeful about the role of government and trying to be a generally good person in society. And when I see, what RFK is actually saying, that is the sort of the status quo that I'm talking about. A status quo that brought us all of those things I just mentioned, that has brought us increasing income inequality throughout every administration over the last 30 years, this sort of Alan Greenspan economy of rewarding bad behavior for people who truly just want to make money. While every health metric has declined over the last 30 years, our maternal mortality rate, our infant mortality rate, our overall mortality now is declining. Our health metrics are going in the wrong direction pretty much across the board. Our education system has failed, from going from 1 to mid 20s in the last 30 years, 40 years. Just sort of like this general sense among people in my generation that, like, we can't really explain it, but everything feels like it's getting worse. And when I have a 2 and a 5-year-old, and I think about the future for them, and I think I'm frustrated by the discourse leading up to this election that somehow the left that I was a part of, frankly, somehow thought that people couldn't see Trump clearly enough, right? They didn't know Trump. Trump is a New York City hustler narcissist who views the world in purely transactional terms. Every relationship he has is transactional. If you do something for me, I'll be loyal to you. If you stop being loyal to me, I will stop being loyal to you. It's not hard to see that. I could see that pretty clearly. I described this election to my friends as like, I could vote for the, I still had a hard time voting for Trump. I voted for RFK in Tennessee because, it's Tennessee. And I was trying to get him over that 5% national threshold to make a third party viable, because to me, that two-party system, as George Washington said, is what's really wrong with our country. So that's why I ended up voting for RFK. But like, it's not like Trump isn't known. Like we can see exactly who he is. I saw that there was a 1% chance that if someone that actually good could get to him, then maybe there's a 1% chance of real change that could change the last 30 years of status quo. And I saw no chance, a 0% chance of a Harris administration changing that sort of broader status quo, not a 4-year cycle of a new president, but the broader 30, 40-year status quo that is failing objectively. And Harris, to me, her administration would have had a truly 0% chance of changing that. A Trump administration, if someone like RFK, or to me, Tulsi Gabbard, or these people that are authentic and principled, if nothing else. They are seemingly saying what they actually think, and some of it seems good. Then maybe there's a 1% chance that they could convince him to do some good stuff versus the 0% chance of it happening with Harris. So that's my sort of, rambling take on where how I got here. I really appreciate this platform just so much. It's the only place I think I can even like go. I followed both. I used to watch, check every day Fox News homepage and CNN homepage until it drove me crazy. And then I would follow Trump War Room and Kamala's wins on Twitter until that drove me crazy because it was just like people speaking to two different countries, and that doesn't get us anywhere. So this is just such a light in that darkness. And so my question, I think, to Dan, if Sean was here, I would ask him the same thing. But is I think there's like a gamble almost of Trump and Elon, and now you see the tech people, the Mark Andreessens and the Peter Thiels and a lot of the tech, the Chamaths, the smart money tech people sort of switch their allegiance a little bit this cycle. Um, is there something we're missing about just saying, well, this was just an anti-media bias versus a true anti like smug elite bias because COVID got things so wrong. And I say that as a physician who was pushing pro everything, vaccine, masking, and it's just a lot of it ended up not being right. I think there were really well-intended people, but the data on the vaccine for young men, masking, lockdowns, like we got stuff wrong, and there was no admission from the main core of the Democratic Party that anything was done wrong. And I think that drove a lot of people crazy. And it's just like, just admit it. And so are we missing that this is more than just anti-media bias for the Rogan types, Rogan who was a Bernie Sanders supporter. And really just this, like, we can now see that so many of these trusted institutions are openly willing to lie, even when they get stuff wrong. And something has to change. Like,
Yeah.
or something missing in the course, I guess.
John, I'm going to let Dan and then Kristen address what you said. I know I'm speaking for more than just myself when I say I just learned more about why Kamala Harris didn't win the election listening to you talk than reading the New York Times for a month. So thank you for that.